All right. 2 weeks ago, I discussed about how sports is an almost $70 billion industry in North America. The question is, how is that money divvied up into who gets to make these decisions? Knowing the natural greed of human beings, there is no way that someone could hear all of that money and not expect to want to be greedy, take more for himself than he leaves for another person. This industry is something that has captured my attention from a very young age, and I know I've spent the majority of my life obsessing over sports, and in the last several years, taking an increased effort in how the game works and how the spectacle that I've come to love is put on. Today I'll explain how the sports industry and the money from it is dispersed using what is known as a collective bargaining agreement, and then to further explain it, give insight into how how it is used, in two of the biggest sports inside the United States. First, I'll explain what a collective bargaining agreement is, then secondarily, show how it affects the NFL and the NBA. What is a collective bargaining agreement? In professional sports leagues in the United States, there is a need to split revenue amongst players and the owners. The owners think that the majority of the money should belong to them because they're the ones who allow the product to be put on, they're the ones who finance all the teams, and yada yada. But the players think that they deserve the bulk of the money because they are the ones who actually put the product on, and without them, the product would be very watered down because they would have to use subpar players. Insert a collective bargaining agreement. According to the Business Dictionary, a collective bargaining agreement is a written, legally enforceable contract for a specified period between the management of an organization and its employees represented by an independent union. Many different leagues have their own issues. Therefore, many leagues have their own union, not just one large for the entirety of the American sports industry, but one for each league, such as the NFL Players Association, National Basketball Association Players Association, Major League Baseball Players Association, and the NHL Players Association, and so on. These issues can be things like work conditions, how many hours a week, wage scales, power of upper management employees, and so on and so forth. According to the CNBC, the NFL and the NFL Players Association divvy up three main revenue sources, these being broadcast revenue, postseason revenue, and local revenue. These were the three agreed upon points in their most recent collective bargaining agreement, which was approved and signed in 2011. The question then becomes, what happens in the situation that an old CBA expires and the two sides are so far apart on the issues that nothing gets signed? This actually happened in 2011, but the off-season is so long in that sport that the two sides managed to come to an agreement before any actual on-field action was missed. Things like OTAs, mini-camps, team activities, things like that, however, did suffer, and for the first majority of the season, the product was very watered down because no one knew what the heck they were doing. Later, actually, we will see an instance where the product on the field was actually removed because the two sides couldn't come together fast enough. According to Bleacher Report, one of the biggest issues from the 2011 NFL collective bargaining agreement, was the institution of a rookie wage scale. Before then, rookies were getting massive contracts, upwards of $70 million in total value, and they had no business earning them because a lot of them would never live up to the amount that they were signed for. So a rookie wage scale essentially capped how much a rookie could make and tied them into a 4-year contract while entering the league. The CBA, however, does not create a socialist-like environment where all teams are worth the same amount of money. Teams in all leagues are separated by their ability to garner ticket sales and merchandise, which, according to Forbes, explains how a team like the Dallas Cowboys on the far right over here can be worth upwards of $4 billion, and then a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars on the far left over there can be worth a relatively small $1.4 billion. The CBA of the NBA, however, is not so different in many ways. Just like it is agreed upon by the owners and the Players Association, like in the NFL, it has a long-lasting period as well of 10 years. Differently, the NBA typically includes opt-out options in theirs. This was triggered in 2016, according to the NBA's official website, but they quickly renewed their agreement and made a 7-year agreement this time. This was in late 2016. Earlier I talked about how in some cases a lockout can actually occur and then the product on the field suffers. This happened in 2011 where the season was supposed to start in October, but they suffered and couldn't come to an agreement, and then the season did not start until mid-December, actually late December, on Christmas Day. According to Forbes, this cost them upwards of $800 million in revenue just from losing based upon the projections they made in the last year. There are many other points and issues amongst the negotiation of CBAs, but these main ones and a few select examples best paint the picture on those who are unfamiliar with the idea of it previously. I've stated how the money is dispersed in specific examples in the two most prominent U.S. sports. If you take nothing else away from this, then remember this. The CBA is as essential to the survival of American sports as food, air, and water are to the human body.